It's 3 minutes right now past 8 o'clock, and good morning. Common Sense Matters is on the radio.
Good morning. Good morning, Al.
Hi.
My name is Sandy Rice, and welcome to Common Sense Matters, sponsored by the Franklin County Democratic Party, to discuss the issues of the day. Today our guest is Chris Hale, candidate for U.S. Congress, District 4, the office currently held by Representative Scott DesJarlais. Welcome, Chris.
Hey, thank you for having me. I really appreciate being here.
All right. Chris, you ran with Mariah Phillips, who had a lot of support in Franklin County and who is now running for state rep in District 37. So I just wanted to throw that in for all of Mariah's friends.
She had a lot of friends down here. She did very well here both in August, and also she did well here in November as well. She rightly earned a lot of friendship around here in the past couple of years.
Okay, good. Well, give us your introduction,
Sure.
your video, your elevator speech.
Well, so I grew up here in our community in Rutherford County, which is part of the 4th Congressional District. Went to public schools my entire childhood. At 18 years old, to be honest, I wanted to leave Tennessee. So I went to the most exciting place I could find, which for that time was Ohio. So I went to college in Ohio, and to me, that Cincinnati was about pretty much New York City at that time. So I went to college in Ohio to a small religious school called Xavier. And then during my freshman year, I got inspired by a young man who was running for president. So I quit school for a time and went out to Iowa to start knocking on doors in a blizzard out there, and he became president of the United States. And so I worked for President Obama starting after college from 2011 to 2014. I think it's really important to understand what I did there. My entire role was to do outreach to people of faith and conservatives. I went to college at the same place that Speaker John Boehner went to school, who's actually a friend of mine. And so I spent my time in government reaching out to conservatives, people of faith, and building bridges. And then I worked as a nonprofit executive for a small religious group in Washington that worked on public advocacy. I moved back home in 2017 because I wanted to start investing in and coming back and working in the community that gave me the roots and wings as a child and gave me so many opportunities. And I spent my entire life standing up to the bullies, fighting for the forgotten, and making good things happen for our families. Our current congressman does not show up. Congressman DesJarlais, the people speaking today, I think the vast majority of you have never met him. He doesn't know you, and you don't know him. And we cannot represent who we do not know. I know you, and you know me. And if we haven't met yet, you know that we will meet. To me, the biggest issue we face today is this virus. Before the virus came, Dr. DesJarlais, a doctor, had opportunities to squash it in the bud and to take action. He did nothing to stop it, and he's doing very little to help us. We know that the unemployment rate in the state is going to be about 25% at the end of the month. And in the rural areas, including Franklin County, the best data I've seen is that 1 in 3 Franklin County residents will not have jobs by the end of this month. We need help. Healthcare and hospitals, good jobs and living wages are no longer questions of left versus right, but right versus wrong. And so I've spent my life fighting for families, and I'm going to spend my time here in this campaign and in my public service fighting like hell to make life better for you and your family. So that's my basic argument. We can kind of get in the weeds of what that means. I am a Democrat, but I want to know that my first priority is not to serve the party. I love the party, but I'm not going to serve the party or the president, but it's to serve you and your family. My priorities are jobs, healthcare, and education.
Okay. I do think that we may have lost a little of that high school civics or whatever it was called, government, as to what a representative is and how the structure, our structure at the U.S. level, our national level, which is we have 2 senators that represent every state, and that's big states, small states, and it's balanced with representatives or congressmen and women to be based on population. And so the Senate is a 6-year term, which I had even forgotten.
Yes, it's quite long. Yeah.
It's quite long. But the representatives are only 2-year terms, and they're all up for election. And what that does is forces them to be out and meet the people, because they are the House of the people. The U.S. Congress is the House of the people, and the representatives are of the people. So when you don't have a representative that's actually meeting with you or being out, now he may be meeting with Republicans. I don't know. Actually, I do want to give a call-in number here, 931-967-2201. And the U.S. Congress has been in recess for quite some time. Has anybody seen or heard of him meeting anywhere in the district?
Well, it's a question I get time and again from nurses just up the street looking for PPE, or folks who are struggling to get benefits from the state of Tennessee. People have waited weeks to get their unemployment benefits, particularly those who are self-employed, which represents about one in 5 workers in our community are self-employed contract workers. Folks who have nursing home parents in nursing homes. Everywhere I go, people ask me the same question: where is Congressman Desjardins?
Okay, so they are aware that he's supposed to be here.
Yes.
Okay, he's very unpopular in the district, and is perceived as being absent, unresponsive to his constituency, again, except maybe Republicans. No town halls, no updates, and rumors have it that he doesn't even live here anymore. And why should he act any differently? He's a shoo-in every election by a 70-30% margin. We've had great people running against him for the last, 10 years, and
sure.
He's kind of tossed off, to the side, and he sends out a few flyers around election time filled with misinformation, because he's a Republican. I had lots of people that said they didn't like him, would vote for Mariah, and they probably did, but I think once it comes down to it, it's the R, and this is a heavily Republican
sure.
Area, but I think people need to question whether we're getting what we pay for.
Well,
and for all of us, especially in this time, the division, the misinformation, the chaos, the financial insecurity, the joblessness. It's a lot different than 2018, right, Chris?
Well, it is.
Different
a
world.
lot of the things that we've talked about that maybe seem hidden in the past, having a good job, having health care, having wages that can pay the bills. Those are no longer hidden issues. Those are visceral realities. The Americans that were living, Tennesseans, residents of Franklin County, and you're out there, you're listening right now. Those of you 2 months ago who were living paycheck to paycheck are now reliant on a government that does not work to help you on the crossroads so that you can get back to work. And so when government doesn't work, it really truly affects your ability to make it day to day. And here's the one thing I want to note. Congressman Desjardins' whole ideology is he does not want government to work. He does not believe in government as an institution that can add value to people's lives. He views it as an impediment. Now, that might be a nice ideology when unemployment's at 3%. We have a state that unemployment's at 25%. And Congressman Desjardins, Dr. No, says no to free coronavirus tests. He opposed it. For weeks, you had to pay hundreds of dollars to get coronavirus tests because Congressman Desjardins does not support President Trump's free coronavirus test program. He didn't support the small business stimulus, the PPP loans that many communities and maybe this radio station, I'm not sure, got. He said he was against it. So Congressman Desjardins was against President Trump's PPP loan program. And Congressman Desjardins was against President Trump's plan to provide paid family leave. So here's the point. If you support Donald Trump, you should note that that Congressman Desjardins will go against Trump when it helps you and your family. So Congressman Desjardins' first and foremost constituency is the rich folks wearing silk suits to work and driving limousines. He is not a champion of folks who take showers when they get home from work, like President Trump claims to be. Congressman Desjardins so clearly is not. He is a champion of the establishment Republicans. He's not fighting for you and your family. Look, my allegiance is to two things: to God and to you and your family. I will not be subservient to any president or any party. I will fight for you. Congressman Desjardins hasn't and will not.
Okay, we have a phone call.
Just push the top button, it's blinking.
Hello, this is Common Sense
Hello.
Matters. Do you have a question for Chris?
Well, I did want to make a comment about Dr. Desjardins.
Yes, go ahead.
It's obvious I'm a Democrat as well, and I have met Chris Hale multiple times. Hi, Chris.
Hi, I hope you liked me.
I do like you.
I appreciate it.
Obviously, Dr. Desjardins doesn't want to hear from all of his constituents. I've never met him. I've been here 3 years. He doesn't hold a town hall that I'm aware of. I'm a Democrat as well. He doesn't answer our questions on Facebook or Twitter. And actually, my husband and I have both been blocked by him. And back early on, when everyone was talking about how he couldn't be blocked, I actually called to be reinstated onto their to be able to look at his Facebook and Twitter because we were blocked. I don't think that he has any independent decisions, particularly with this pandemic. As him being a doctor, in the very beginning, in particular, he was just towing the line. He wasn't really standing up for Tennesseans and people in District 4 who actually needed his help. So I just would not vote for him again. I'll tell you that. And to me, he's just a version. He's just the House version of Marsha Blackburn. I don't see them helping Democrats or, being open to helping people that aren't in the Republican Party.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure that you'll be open to helping everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. He blocks. He votes with the block.
Well, and I think one of the things I want to note is that I say things that people do not like. I am a Democrat in rural Tennessee, and I understand that I am very open to getting yelled at. I get yelled at in a lot of places. There's a famous video of me in Van Buren County getting escorted off the stage. It was like they were going to hang me to the cross. But the thing that you have to give me credit for, and I hope that I do in a way that Congressman Desjardins does not, is I will go anywhere and I will take any berating. I will talk to anyone without exception. I'm a missionary, in that I will go to any doorstep, any community, any zip code, and listen to anyone. So I made this promise last time when I run it. I want to reiterate it. I've already hosted in my 3-week campaign town halls, digital town halls in the capacity that we're in 9 counties. When I am elected to the United States Congress, within my first 100 days, I will hold town halls in every county in this district, all 16 of them, and I'll do it again and again and again and again. Here's the biggest thing I gotta say, Carrie, you cannot represent who you do not know. You cannot represent who you do not love. And as I've told folks across this community, is that Congressman Desjardins, Dr. Desjardins, a resident of Northern Virginia, of Arlington, Virginia, does not live here, does not participate in our life, and does not understand us in our community, and I will.
Okay. I want to talk just a little bit about minimum wage.
Sure.
Because I know he's opposed to that. In Tennessee, we have legislation that we will not we will accept the
federal minimum wage.
The federal minimum wage, which is what,
$7.25, I believe.
$7.25 or $7.35. And that has not changed in 10 or 11 years.
It's actually been since. So think about this. So I don't know if you all think I'm young or not. I'm 31 years old.
You're young.
Yeah, there you go. It has not changed since I was a senior in high school.
Okay.
So that's 14 years.
14
so half
years.
my life. So think about this for a second. I was a youth minister, a church youth minister in 2007.
Okay.
I got paid $7.25 an hour, which was, it was enough to pay the bills and get my car, my 93 Jeep Cherokee back and forth to work. Mm-hmm. But today, if that would be unimaginable to make any kind of living on. If you're making $7.25 an hour, you're living, even in rural Tennessee where costs are low, you're living next to poverty.
Yeah, I've looked at some statistics about that, and just what it takes to live by yourself,
Sure.
or let alone have a spouse or a family. And we're talking about supporting families, and they have to have 2 or 3 jobs with no benefits. In our rural areas, there's not a lot of opportunity. I do a lot of talking about how to sustain our rural areas, and there's just no jobs except the gas station or there's not so many tanning parlors or something anymore. So they're living on the margin, trying to maintain their lives. And when you have something like what's happening now, they're lost. And so trying to get this federal help, people want to work. They don't want to wait for the handout. They don't want to go to the mailbox every day waiting for a check that might take them through a couple of weeks. But what Scott Desjardins believes is that if you raise the minimum wage to any even close to a living wage, those businesses will fail, because nobody wants to pay 10 or 15 cents more for their Twinkie or their sausage biscuit or their hamburger or whatever. And that is old thinking.
Sure.
That has been the party line of the GOP, forever. And you look, people pay more for everything all the time. For gas, that goes, it's down right now, but it has gone up, and people just, dig deeper. If they want something, they're gonna pay for it. Or going to the hair salon goes up, or the barbershop goes up. You don't see people,
Well, it's remarkable to me.
Stopping going to those places. They pay.
Well, it's remarkable to me because, once again, I want to highlight this and fact check me on this. Congressman Desjardins, his first and foremost devotion is to King GOP. Okay, President Trump supports a minimum wage of $10 an hour at least. Congressman Desjardins says no. So President Trump, a businessman, says $10 an hour. Why does Congressman Desjardins not support President Trump's proposed minimum wage? It seems to me that Congressman Desjardins lost the ability, I'm not sure if he actually ever had it, to think for himself and to fight for the community that sent him to the United States Congress. To me, it's very basic. I want to run on family values, and to me, that a 40-hour-per-week job should give you three things: the ability to have housing, to pay for your family's living expenses, and to give you the time to have rest, to worship God, to be there with your kids and grandkids. And that $7.25 minimum wage does not do that, as President Trump agrees. It has to be higher. I think we can look at a lot of different ranges, but I think at the very minimum we have to start with Trump's $10 an hour proposal and go from there. And I wonder why Congressman Desjardins doesn't support that.
Yeah, I didn't realize he was asking where is that?
Well, so we can definitely criticize the president for not pushing it forward in his time for office, but the reality of it is the president has to rely on Congress. And it would be different if Congressman Desjardins was a rabble rouser and he would push the chains and say, this is what I'm fighting for, this is what I'm showing up for. But we're talking about families struggling at $7.25 an hour here. Congressman Desjardins made $1.7 million of your money over the past 10 years. He got rich. You got sick. And the reality of it is during that time period, he has never proposed a single piece of innovative legislation. Okay. He has never fought for something something new. He's been deluged by scandal, and he doesn't show up and fight. So if Congressman Desjardins had sat there and proposed $10 hour minimum wage, like about 30 of his GOP colleagues did, I would say I'm all for it, but he hasn't.
Okay, we have another phone call. Great. Hello, welcome to Common Sense Matters. Do you have a question for Chris?
Well, more a comment. Hey, this is Helen. Back to what y'all were saying about the minimum wage. I always see my Republican friends on Facebook saying how if you have a minimum wage job, you need to just get a better job. Like that's the solution to it. And I'm like, well, yeah, but who's going to work at McDonald's? Who is going to work at the grocery store or wherever? And during this pandemic, we are seeing how essential those people are. To tell every low-wage worker, oh, just get a better job, well, someone's going to replace them and we're seeing now how important and essential these jobs are.
Right.
And we definitely need to raise the minimum wage.
Well, I think
you can't just tell everyone working minimum wage, oh, just get a better job.
Well, yeah, and the thing is, in the rural areas too, okay, who's going to take care of my kids while I go look for a job? Mm-hmm. Who's going to take care of my...
That's all I wanted to say.
All right, Helen, thank you.
Thanks. Mm-hmm. Bye.
I've done some volunteer work with a clinic in Beersheba in Grundy County, and it's always a question of, I see high schoolers, and they've graduated. They haven't gotten a scholarship anywhere. Their job is taking care of grandma, or somebody's children that can't get away from that. Where they're going to go for training? They don't have reliable transportation. This is for the adults too. Actually, I think they'd be happy to work at Publix or Kroger, or McDonald's. I think they make more. I
Sure.
mean, they have a track, but in Tracy City and things like that, it's really the pizza parlor or the gas station that has, a little lunch counter, and it's hard to get away. Plus, mountain people like to stay on the mountain. I mean, I had patients that if I said, well, you're going to need to go, to Nashville for dental care or, to see a specialist, they don't want to go.
Well, and it's remarkable too. I think that what you just said there, I think highlights so much the way government treats the rural communities.
Oh yeah.
The government says to every Tennessean here listening, and everyone here in Franklin County listening, the government's solution for you to get better health care, to get opportunity, to get jobs, to have a future is to go to Nashville. That is the government's answer. That's Scott Desjardins' answer. And I think one of the interesting things about it is if you remember about a decade ago during the financial crisis of 2009. What was remarkable is, so the government did this incredible investment program, and you all had Congressman Lincoln Davis in on the time, but really what happened in Tennessee is the biggest 5 cities got 85% of the federal dollars. And so unemployment went way down in Davidson County and Rutherford County and Williamson County, but it stagnated in Franklin County, Grundy County, Marion County, because the government said we're going to invest in suburban and urban communities and leave the rural communities behind. We have to flip the switch. I am a Democrat that cares first and foremost about rural Tennessee because rural Tennessee's been left behind. And I have to concede and say very bluntly that a big part of it is the Democratic Party's fault. We have not at the national level put the focus on rural communities, and I want you to be able to live and have a good job and have possibilities of education and advancement in healthcare without having to leave Franklin County. You chose to live here, and you should have the opportunities that life gives you here.
Okay, we have another question. Hi, this is Common Sense Matters. Do you have a question or comment for Chris?
Kind of a little bit of both. I'm just curious if he has an original thought or if he's just there to bash Scott Desjardins. I'll hang up and listen.
Well, let me say this. I think I've just given you about 5 original thoughts. Let's go through them one more time. Number one, the minimum wage should be at least $10 an hour. President Trump supports that. Why does Congressman Desjardins not support that? Number 2, I think that we should have investment in rural hospitals and expand Medicaid coverage. President Trump, when he ran for president in 2016, said that Medicaid expansion was the right idea. Congressman Desjardins disagrees with that. Why does Congressman Desjardins disagree with President Trump on Medicaid expansion? And I'll do a third one, and then we can kind of go forward from here. Congressman Desjardins does not support paid family leave. If you're sick right now in the coronavirus, you have no access to paid family leave if you can't go to work. If you can't go to work, you don't get paid. President Trump supports that. Congressman Desjardins doesn't. Here's the reality. Congressman Desjardins doesn't have an original thought. He's been there 10 years, $1.7 million of your money. You paid it. You got $1.7 million of your money. And, sir, here's my question to you. What has he done to make life better for you and your family? Are you better off than you were the day he got elected? Unemployment is 21%. The day he got elected, it was 7%. So 3 times more unemployment. We've lost 10 rural hospitals. Our education levels have gone down. The quality of life has gone down. Suicides have gone up. It doesn't all belong to Congressman Desjardins, but if you paid the man $1.7 million, maybe he could have done more for us and rename a post office. Maybe he could have fought for better wages, for better jobs. Maybe he could have shown up to our communities and engaged with us. Maybe he could have not moved to Northern Virginia and lived here among us in our community. I'm going to draw distinctions with Congressman Desjardins because I'm not afraid to, because it's time for us to tell the truth about his record. And here's the truth. He doesn't show up. He doesn't fight for you. He hasn't made a lick of difference in a decade in office, and I will.
I'm going to get back to you on the Medicaid
Sure.
and Trump. But one thing I want, since we have some listeners, is he has a environmental score, a lifetime score of voting for saving our environment of 2%. In other words, 2% of the time in 10 years of office, he's voted for our environment. And this is another thing. President Trump has rolled back 100 environmental protections. And a friend of mine who's a biologist, a botanist, I hope he calls in, he talks about, we talked about the Clean Water Act and how that came about in the late 70s. I think it was Nixon, right? People wanted clean water. They saw their rivers and streams, polluted and things floating down them. So the people of America came together and told their representatives that they wanted clean water and then clean air. What's going on now? We don't care about that anymore. I mean, President Trump says climate change is a hoax. Well, he thinks everything is a hoax, and he's a smart man and all this stuff, but climatologists and scientists and all these people are saying that no, we're in trouble. Why does President Trump and Scott Desjardins want to ruin our environment?
Well, it's interesting to me. So I'm a Christian. Let's open the first book of the Bible. In Genesis, it tells us that God asked human beings to do three things: to till the earth, to procreate, and to protect creation. So protecting creation is not some left-wing idea out of the 1970s Kumbaya movement. It's the first command that God gives the human race. And so to me, as a Christian, I look to biblical scripture and it says protect creation. Now, we don't have to, I don't think we don't go to the nth degree with, we don't have to fight to the nth degree on this, but what we can do is get some basics. We should have clean water. We should have unpolluted air. We should have an environment that our farmers can exist in and pass out the vocation of farming to their children. Here's the thing that's really important: is protecting creation. It's about protecting our way of life and protecting the industries that matter so much to our community. We don't talk enough about agriculture. We do not talk enough about farming. The Farm Bill of 2018, Scott Desjardins should have been on the forefront because it had some good things, but it could have been more particularly suited to this community. And what we've done is, by not protecting creation, not protecting our environment, we're really endangering the most important industry in this community, which is agriculture. And we have to understand, particularly in the context of this coronavirus, do you know who an essential worker is? Every farmer in this community. They're essential workers. They are feeding our families in the midst of a global health crisis. But Congressman Desjardins has not shown up to fight for them, and protecting creation is one of the first ways we can do that. So I have very simple principles on this. We can do this in a way that we can protect creation in a way that is first and foremost about protecting the environment for rural Tennessee. The reality of it is that the federal government cannot have a one-size-fits-all solution. It needs to be localized. It needs to be surgically administered in ways that are particular to our community. But once again, Congressman Desjardins is not involved in those conversations. If you ask his GOP colleagues in Washington where he's at, they don't know where he's at either. I will be a champion who's at every meeting, who's at every discussion to ensure that every regulation that the federal government puts its hands into is done in a way that's going to protect our community. And my first focus in this community in Franklin County on environmental and care for creation regulations is, will it protect our rural way of life, and will it protect our farmers?
Okay. Let's go to health care.
Yes, health care.
I don't. Okay. We have another call.
Oh, we got another call.
Maybe. She ain't said so.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Another phone call here. Hi, this is Common Sense Matters. Do you have a comment or question for Chris?
I have a question. I appreciate the answer before in detail, but I do have a question on your stance on pro-life or pro-choice. I heard you just quoting scripture and talking about how we should protect creation. So I'm curious how your belief on that translates to pro-life or pro-choice on that debate. And
Sure.
I'll hang up and listen.
No, thank you. I appreciate the question. I am pro-life. I believe in the dignity of all human life, from conception to natural death. I think the way we do that, though, is first and foremost, we have to create a culture of life and ensure that pregnant women in this community have the ability and resources and community help to ensure that they're able to be mothers and to exist in a community that accepts human life. Look, you want to decrease abortion in the state of Tennessee? The first thing you do is expand Medicaid. The latest data that we've seen is that it would reduce abortion in the first 5 years by 40% in the state of Tennessee. You want to reduce abortion? Expand Medicaid. Why does Congressman Desjardins not support this pro-life principle? You want to support the dignity of human life? You should have better health care, but also better wages. We know that when the economic conditions are more salient, are better for our communities, that there will be more desire to bring life into this world. You want to protect life? Get better wages, better jobs. Why does Congressman Desjardins not support this pro-life principle? And look, let's be very blunt here. Let's call this out. Congressman Desjardins isn't pro-life. Ask his mistresses. Ask his ex-wife. Ask the millions of Tennesseans searching for health care and jobs. He isn't pro-life. He ain't pro-life. I'm not going to let him get away with this lie anymore. It is an absurdity. He is not pro-life. We're going to call him on his record. And I am, and he isn't. And I'm going to show my record. Google Christopher Hale pro-life and see what you find. And Google Scott Desjardins pro-life and see what you find. Our records are out there, and I'm going to win on this issue. If you are a pro-life Christian who cares about the dignity of human life, Scott Desjardins ain't your man. I am.
And also, do you want to address education, sex education?
Sure.
As a factor as well?
Absolutely. So
I don't know what his record is on that, but I mean, this is an important thing too.
And I will lay out, there's 4 principles I have for expanding the dignity of human life in the state of Tennessee. Number 1, I said expand Medicaid. I'll go through all 4 really quickly. Number 2 is we need to expand Medicaid coverage for pregnant women. You know those liberals in New York, those godless liberals in New York. Do you know when Medicaid coverage begins for pregnant women? In the first trimester. In the first trimester. Why in Tennessee do pregnant women not get access to Medicaid until the 3rd trimester? If life begins at conception, shouldn't Medicaid coverage begin at conception? So I want to expand Medicaid coverage for pregnant women from the moment of conception to 2 years. So I want 2 years and 9 months of Medicaid coverage for pregnant women because that's promoting the dignity of life. The third thing I would argue is that we need comprehensive sex education in our schools. We know that in communities where young people understand the reality of sex and understand the importance of sex in their life and the health factors in sex, that the more they know, the better choices they make. We are not helping our children by hiding the truth from them. Mm-hmm. God tells us that the truth will set us free in the Gospel of John. Well, I think the Gospel of John would definitely support comprehensive sex education in Franklin County schools. And the 4th point that I'll go on is that contraception should be free in this country and should be free in this community. We shouldn't have this situation where it's very hard to get contraception.
Affordable.
In this community. People shouldn't be scrounging up dollar bills to be able to have contraception. So those are 4 principles. I promise you, if you're pro-life and you want to reduce abortions in Tennessee, Scott Desjardins hasn't done a darn thing to help it. And the reason is, look at his history and look what's happened in his own life and choices he made, and then look at my history and look what I've fought for in my life, and you'll see why.
He's more anti-abortion, and I think we have to make the distinction
Sure.
that a lot of people are anti-abortion and not pro-life. I mean, the other thing that goes along with this is for respect for life is once the baby is here, let's take care of it.
Sure. And
And Medicaid just goes for a short period of time. In fact, there is a bill in Tennessee to extend Medicaid benefits. We don't have Medicaid expansion, as you all know, but to extend benefits for 12 months after the birth of the baby, because they looked at all the deaths that occurred, and it was usually related to drug overdose. You know, a mom may have, kept off that until she had the baby, and the stresses. I don't have any babies, but I understand it's kind of stressful. And so they would, fall back, or the financial things or whatever, and so they had a lot of maternal deaths, which
Sure.
and so that's kind of a bill, but that's still not through, and it's been that way for several years before anyone discovered it. So let's have healthy
Absolutely.
children.
I think a lot of Scott Desjardins' Republican colleagues are pro-birth, but they're not pro-life. But I wouldn't even argue that Congressman Desjardins is pro-birth. Let's look at his record. For us to allow couples and pregnant women to choose life, we have to give them a sense that they're going to have protection for themselves and their child. These are not people who choose to have abortions in Tennessee are not bad people. They've been presented with horrible choices. If there is an abortion in Tennessee, I want you to understand this. It is not that woman's fault at all. It is our community's fault. We have to, as a community, create a culture of life in this state, and government's a part of that. If you want to protect life, protect women. I am pro-woman, I am pro-life, but government plays a role with that. If you're left out to the secular social Darwinism and not the biblical imagination of caring for each other, abortions will continue to be on the rise in the state of Tennessee.
Yeah. Another thing is there was a lot of anger, and, we know about the Obamacare and the ACA. I mean, Representative Desjardins fought that every step of the way with no kind of replacement, to that. But a big thing with that was, I don't want government in my medical care. It's just between me and my doctor. Yet, on the abortion issue, who is right in the middle of that? You're a politician. I mean, Roe versus Wade says that legalized abortion because they thought it was a woman's privacy, part of the right to privacy, and it was a decision between her and her doctor. Well, the GOP and all the anti-abortionists are just right there in the middle of that and in that woman's health care. And it just, Roe versus Wade is going on, 1973? I mean, since I was in high school.
Nearly 40 years, yeah.
And it just keeps going and going. And we spend so much energy. And then the other thing I was thinking this morning is this thing in Texas, is there was armed people so that a tattoo parlor could open. People with deadly force were saying, I mean, it's going all over. Thank God it hasn't happened in Tennessee yet. But my rights. You can't tell me I can't work. You can't tell me I have to wear a mask. You can't tell me I can't go to a restaurant. It's my constitutional right. Well, what about a woman's right?
Well, that's remarkable to me on that. If you can have a gun to protect your home, you sure as hell can wear a mask to protect your family and our families too. And I think I want to go on something really important here. You talked about the attempts to legally restrict abortion access. Well, I'm being a little bit snarky here, but what I want to show you is, do you know what country has the least amount of abortions per capita in the world is? It's godless, secular France. And why does France, those secular Europeans, my God, why do they have such low abortion rates? Because they have the best healthcare coverage in the world. Congressman Desjardins doesn't want to stop abortions. Look at his record. Look at his past. He wants to use it as a political issue to trick you. Congressman Desjardins has more personal experience with abortion than any man in the state of Tennessee. He's in the 1%. He has no desire to stop abortion. His desire is to win an election. And I want to say one thing on government being involved in healthcare. The irony of that causes me to sink low. Congressman Desjardins made over $1 million on Medicare payments from this government and Medicaid payments from this government during his career as a doctor. He was one of these top recipients of Medicaid and Medicare patients in the state. He built his entire wealth on government. He built his entire wealth on government payments for health care. Congressman Desjardins knows that government helped him make a living for himself and his family. So the idea that he wants to cut it is just an absurd political trick to win an election. I'm not going to let him get away with it.
Another phone call. Hi, this is Common Sense Matters. Do you have a comment or question for Chris?
Yes. Hey, this is Mariah Phillips.
Hey.
Hey.
Mariah.
Hey, I just wanted to, and I'm sorry that if you've already covered this, I wasn't able to listen to the whole broadcast, but I wanted to know, in 2018 we had a really aggressive ground game campaign, and one of the big issues that we focused on, of course, was healthcare. And so I know you're talking about that now. What are you hoping to do differently, or what do you plan to do differently in 2020 to capitalize on what could be a blue wave coming through Middle Tennessee?
Well, Mariah, thank you for calling. And Mariah is going to be my personal state representative in Murfreesboro and Rutherford County, and so I'm honored to take the call from the soon-to-be honorable Mariah Phillips. The answer to your question, I think what's happened is things that were, and Mariah ran a heck of a campaign. Mariah is the hardest working person I have ever met in my life, and I've worked in the White House, I've worked in government, I've worked in the highest levels of politics. I've never met someone who's worked as hard as Mariah Phillips. And so if I have any success in 2020, I'm standing on the shoulder of giants, and Mariah would be one of them. Stephen before her, and Linda Sherrill, and Eric Stewart, and Lincoln Davis, and on and on. On the healthcare issue in particular, what's happened is what was once invisible has become visible. The amount of residents in Franklin County who are desperate for access to health care today has skyrocketed in the past 2 months. This is no longer a question of theory, but of reality. For me, it's very clear that, once again, we're talking about biblical values. In the Gospel of Matthew, Jesus is very clear that caring for the sick is a way that God will not just judge us as individuals, but that God will judge the nations. God will judge our country on how we take care of the sick. God will judge our representatives on how we take care of the sick. And so what I want to do, I think too often in the past, my party talks in these ideals in theories and white papers about statistics, and these are important, don't get me wrong, but I want to talk about people. I want to talk about people and values, and I want to talk in the language that we understand. Here's the reality. The vast majority of Tennesseans have not read the Federalist Papers, the founding documents, the 27 amendments to the Constitution of the United States, the Bill of Rights, etc. But you know what we've all read? Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Mm-hmm. We understand these values as right versus wrong, and I'm not going to put grand theories on television. I'm going to take it back to bread and butter basic issues and talk about what our common values as Tennesseans call us to do. I'm a populist. I'm a Christian populist. I'm a pragmatic populist. I'm a rural populist. I'm going to talk in ways that people understand. And I think what's happened is that which was in the stars has become, it lived in the flesh. People that I talk to every day are struggling, and they need help. And Congressman Desjardins is hiding. He's in hiding with $1.7 million in the bank, and they're trying to make $725 or get an unemployment check from our government. I'm going to fight for them, and I hope they see that in me.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I'm big on the healthcare.
Yes. Well, we can keep going on it.
But the one thing that I want to just kind of, I'm going to go back to France. France loves their children.
They do.
They love their children.
Sure.
I mean, they even have a program where I think their maternal time off is like months and months. I mean, we may not be able to do that, but they have people that are visiting, the mothers and things like that, and not assuming that a new mother or a mother a second time has got it, all together, but they provide that support, which we used to in public health departments. When I was in nursing school, we did that. We visited, moms and new babies, in the home. And if they had issues or problems or financial or food or whatever concerns, we would refer them and we would go back. Now, this may have been and the nurses, the nursing students loved it, and I loved it, but I was never able to find that type of a situation.
Well, and one thing I want to
again.
say on that is we just had Mariah call. Mariah, if you don't know her story, she's a mother of 5. She's worked two jobs the majority of her life, and that's a wonderful thing. But it's also an absurdity that in this country
right.
that
Yeah.
values life supposedly and values family, no Tennessean should have to work 2 jobs in order to make a living for their family. And once again, every family deserves the right to have housing and education, and savings, working 40 hours a week, and the time to worship God on the weekend and to play with their kids and grandchildren. Rest is not an act of laziness. It's an act of moral rightness. People deserve the opportunity to fall in love. I'm concerned about marriage rates. Marriage rates are down in this country and in this community. In Franklin County, marriage rates are down 10% in the past decade. Why is that? Because our young people are slaving away to make a living. Shouldn't our young people have the ability to get married and have a family? Well, let me tell you something. If anyone wants to marry me, I'm looking. But if we're slaving away at work all day to make a living, we don't have time to build relationships, to fall in love. It's not just a question. This ain't socialism. This is Christianity. It's pure biblical values that people should have the opportunity to fall in love and have a family. And the way our country works, the way Scott Desjardins, Tennessee works, think about it. 10 years Scott Desjardins has been off. His marriage rates are dropping in Tennessee. Why is that?
Yeah. Well, we may talk about what socialism is, if not this time, another time. The other thing is this response, listening to the people on our state level. I'm going to take a minute since Mariah's on my mind. But 60 to 65% of people have wanted Medicaid expansion in Tennessee. The state legislature will not do it. Mm-hmm. They will not do it. I mean, I've been on committees, I've been on rallies, I've written letters, I've been with the Tennessee Justice Center. We phone calls on this Medicaid block grant. People all over the state came and said, don't do this. This will not work. And the legislature just totally ignores it. And that's not how that's not how a democracy works. The other thing about health care is that a lot of people benefited from the ACA. Now I hear people say, oh, that thing never worked. Well, it wasn't allowed to work, and at least it was a step to socialize medicine, because you know what? The private sector does not work for health care. That's what we have now. And people are waiting for the private sector to take care of coronaviruses. Well, did the private sector stock us up with ventilators? No. This company was going to do it, and then that was bought by this company, and then that company, and everything like that. So there was this big ventilator shortage, when we needed it. People have insurance from their work. Well, guess what? Nobody's working. So what happens to that health insurance? We're going to have more and more, uninsured people. Some insurance companies are doing a big thing on TV with, we're in this together, we're in this together. And I want to say, I'm not allowed to watch TV anymore. I'm screaming at the TV, how, what does that mean? And so insurance executives have made millions. I mean, how is the private sector working in healthcare?
Well, and let me answer. I think one of the things I want to really highlight on is the reason that representatives are not voting for their community is because they're listening to folks. I'm there in Nashville. I go to the legislature as well. There's folks in Italian-made suits, $2,500 Italian-made suits, who peddle a series of lies and write checks to your representatives. Your representatives do not serve you. They serve big interests in Nashville and out of state. The silk suit wearers are running our government in Nashville. And one of the things I really, 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 really want to highlight on this, farming is super important. Agriculture is super important. It sustains our families. I exist. Sandra exists. We all exist because there are farmers. That's the only way we exist. And the government thinks that's pretty darn important. So $1 in $3, it's actually about 1 in 2 in most communities, dollars that farmers make is subsidized by the federal government, because the government is like, it makes decisions that this industry is so crucial to our country and our national security and our well-being that we will make sure it does not fail. We will do what it takes to make sure it does not fail. What people are now seeing in such vivid ways is healthcare is the exact way. Healthcare is too big to fail.
Right.
It is too big to fail, and it can no longer. Your family's health, your family's health is too important to give a damn about the $9 million that Blue Cross Blue Shield executives bonuses are getting.
Yeah.
It's too big to ensure that Cigna gets a 30% pay raise for their top executives. You matter more than them. Scott Desjardins likes them. He doesn't like you. He likes these rich folks from out of state who make millions of dollars on a system that screws you over. Know this, that when you get screwed over, someone wins, and Scott's with them. He's with the rich folks. He is not with you. You are a human being. When God created you, you had rights. You have rights to a life. You have rights to thrive. Life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, what our founder said. Well, important in your life is that you have food, that you have health care, that you have a place to live, that you have the opportunity to thrive. These are values as old as Scripture itself. Scott Desjardins does not defend them. He defends the godless rich folks from the healthcare industries who make millions off us struggling.
Right. I think a reading of the Constitution is not that hard. You know, it's not that long. It's all the amendments and the
It's
Bill
really
of
beautiful.
Rights.
We should read it together sometime. Yes, it's beautiful. It's worthy of our consideration.
Especially the preamble.
Yes. Well, in the preamble, it says something that I think is really important, and I really want to highlight this before we end. The preamble of the United States has this incredible phrase that is the first time used in human history. The phrase, "we the people." Mm-hmm. The people is a very interesting word. The first phrase, that the word as people, as a collective community, is used in the Old Testament scripture in the book of Isaiah. And it was never used as an understanding of government. Really, governments until the 18th century were the monarchy and the plebes, the lower class. There was no sense of solidarity. Government was never supposed to be a representative of the people. But what we have lost in that is the sense that our representatives have a obligation that is in the Constitution itself to be in the community. That we pick people of us, for us, and by us. Congressman Desjardins does not know us. He does not know you and your family. He does not pick up your phone calls. Congressman Desjardins doesn't even live here anymore. And he has made a choice, a decade in Washington, that he likes the temperature, the swamp, and the schools better. And so he's gone there,
Schools, yes.
and he's left us behind. It's really important that a lawmaker, number one, makes laws, but number two, and this is constitutional, that they understand the needs of their people and that they are close to them. You can't sit behind wealth and mansions to do that. You have to be in the community. And that is a value that is in our Constitution. And you cannot fight for someone you do not know.
Right, right. Well, and the Constitution puts forth some pretty high standards, some things that are difficult. Democracy is hard.
It's not easy. It's advanced citizenship.
And you know, the whole thing was a big experiment, because the history around, you know, the birth of our nation is just fascinating. What was going on in other countries and breaking away from England. I mean, a lot of our rights are things that we weren't getting, our founders and the people before them weren't getting in England. And so it's a giant experiment, and we can't let it go. That all men are created equal, oh my gosh, what a hard thing. We've never really done very well with that, but I think it's a worthy goal, and we should work harder at that.
Well, and we're kind of coming to an end, so if I can close on that in some capacity. Ronald Reagan said that he dreamed of America, and once again he looked at scripture of this, as a city shining upon the hill. Mm-hmm. He never really talked about the fact that it was a hill. And because if you think about the idea of a hill, we live near the mountains here. it is hard to trudge up the hill. It takes a lot of work and a lot of persistence and a lot of hope. And Paul says in Philippians that the three greatest, there's faith, hope, and love, and the greatest of these is love. I sometimes wonder if that's true. I think sometimes in the dark times, hope is all you have. These are very dark times for the people of Tennessee. We cannot hide from this reality anymore. The reality is in the flesh. The only way that we can keep trudging up the hill is by walking in hope. Hope is not mere optimism. It is not simply looking at the present reality and trying to hide yourself from the hard things that we're seeing. It's looking at them and saying, yes, I see this, but I walk forward to make it better. And I'll end with this. Abraham in the Bible was told by God to look up at the stars of the sky to see his descendants. What's so remarkable about that is Abraham was told that during the daytime. Look it up. He was told that during the daytime. So Abraham looked up and saw nothing. It's only in the darkness that we can see the furthest. Think about it. We can see the sun when it's light outside, but you can see the galaxy at night. You can see far beyond the sun at night. So in the darkness that marks these times, we have a chance to see further and to walk in hope. I represent a new generation. I am not blind. I am not naive. I've spent my life trudging up that hill for you and your family. I'm asking for you to give me a shot. My allegiance is not to any president. It's not to any party. It's not to any silk suit wearer that is screwing you and your family over. It is to God and to you, and I will make life better for you and your family, and I'll fight like hell every day to make that happen.
Okay, thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
I think if you want to give out your website and how can people
Sure.
look you up and write you and send you money and
Absolutely. I need your support. I need your help. I need your criticism. If you want to criticize me, I'm going to listen. I'm going to learn. I am not above criticism. I will not hide away. ChristopherHale, HALE.com. ChristopherHale, HALE.com. If you want to call me and harass me and yell at me or text me mean things or say something nice, you can do so. The best number is 615-956-2809. That's 615-956-2809. Text that number and I'll call you right back. If you are interested in giving, do so. Scott Desjardins is funded by rich folks out of state. I'm funded by the contributions of you and your family. We had a record-raising month in the first month of this campaign, and the average contribution is $34. We are funded by working-class people of Tennessee, and that's who I'm going to fight for in this election. My Hell Yes signs are pretty damn popular from what I can tell. If you want one, you can go to ChristopherHale.com/HellYes. We're going to distribute over 10,000 signs this cycle. You will know my name. You might not like me, but you will know that I'm there. And the only thing more present than my signs in this community will be me. So I hope you'll see me out there, and I'll see you on the road.
all right. Thanks. This has been Common Sense Matters, sponsored by the Franklin County Democratic Party.
You're listening to WCDT AM 1340, FM 106.9 in Winchester, Tennessee.
Hold on a second. Here is your free membership. I'm Carl Deichler, the CEO of Beachbody, and I just sent a free membership to another customer. And I'm giving away 10,000 free memberships.